Welcome to the New Era Podcast, a fresh space where we talk life, love, growth, money moves, marriages, relationships, mindset, and everything in between. Hosted by me, Courtney. This is where real talk meets wisdom, humor, conversations that help you grow. Now, let me be honest. I almost didn't record this podcast. I felt like, is it too late to talk about trust? I'm quite sure trust has always been a topic of conversation. But as I sat in my silence and stillness, I knew this message wasn't just about me. And it wasn't just for me. Somebody out there needed to be reminded that God is closer than you think, even in the dark. God is closer than you think, even in the dark. This episode came from a deep place of reflection. I've been thinking about the story of Joseph in the Bible, how his own brothers betrayed him, how he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, and how he still trusted God even when it didn't make sense. And he was in the dark. The pit is dark. This episode is all about trusting through the process, even when it's hard, even when it's dark, and shifting from complaining to gratitude. We're going to break down Joseph's journey, get real about how trust shows up in our everyday lives, and reflect on how to be grateful even when we're waiting. Now, let's get into it. I first want to tell you a small story, a quick story. I was speaking to someone, I think a few days back, who was consistently being like, I wouldn't say ungrateful, but just not satisfied with where they are currently. I should be further along in life. I should have this. I should have that. And all of a sudden it hit me as I'm encouraging this person. I was like, first of all, you are actually doing better than the average person, like today, for real. Like the stuff that you have, like finances, emotionally, mentally, like you're doing better than some. But they really and truly could not see that. Sometimes it takes another set of eyes to look at you and look where you are and look at your perspective. That's why I'm a certified coach. I can help you see what you cannot see. So I asked them, what if God was standing right there next to you? Like, what if? Would you still be complaining? And they had to take a look and was like, no, I wouldn't. I said, what would you say? They said, I would say, God, I thank you for this. And I thank you that I'm blessed. And I thank you for all the things. Now, I want you as the listening audience to reflect on that. Like, would you still be complaining if God, if He's your source, was standing next to you and you can see Him with your physical eyes? Now, let's put it in the natural context. So, if you had a parent or somebody that was your provider, would you complain to this person? They got you a job. So, hey, they got you a job, they pay your rent, they do all the things for you. And you're standing next to them and you say, "Ugh, thank you for all the other stuff, but you know what? I could be so much further. Like you can do a little bit more. Like you can give me more of what." I don't think we would say that. I don't think as adults. Now, I'm not talking about a spoiled teenager or somebody like that, but I'm talking about as adults. I don't think that we would say that. So I hope you had time to reflect on that. Sometimes we act like God is distant, like he's so further along, like way out there in the cosmos. And I used to be like that before I actually gave my life to Christ. I used to be like that. I was like, I felt like God was way out there, like, hello, hello, hello. But what if he's right here, like right now, working even when we can't see him? Now, let's get into the story of Joseph. Trusting God through the process, even when it's dark. Like trusting God through the process. God is closer than you think, even when it's dark. So Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, one of. He had another favorite son, which was Benjamin. Joseph and Benjamin had the same mom and dad. But Joseph also had half brothers. So he had a dream. Joseph had a dream that one day he would rule. His brothers got jealous of that. Now, I know the Bible talks about um Joseph and how he was Jacob's favorite son, as well as Benjamin. And it said something about because he had him in his older days. Now, me, I tend to disagree or see it differently. I see it as the reason Joseph and Benjamin was Jacob's favorite is because of their mom. Now, this is not part of the story, but I wanted to give you a little bit more context because if you go back, Jacob and Rachel were like when he seen Rachel, he was in awe. He was like, I gotta have her. He was like, I like her. I like what I see. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. He was connected to Rachel. And it reminds me, I don't know if you guys seen and this is like a free promo, but I don't know if you guys seen the series on Netflix called Forever. It kind of reminds me of that. Justin, like the minute he saw Keisha, he was like, "Oh my God, she's gorgeous," and he was connected to her and attracted to her, not just physically. It was just something about her. And I say that the same way that Jacob was attracted to Rachel. So if you just kind of fast forward, just kind of give you a little bit more context, is that now Leah was Rachel's sister. Leah was the oldest one. But the Bible also said that I don't know, she was cockeyed. Something went on with her eyes or something like that. So it probably made Leah less attractive. So Jacob knew that he wanted to marry Rachel. He knew that. Like, this got to be my wife. And so he went, of course, to her father and, did all the things that they did back then. And he was like, okay, she's going to be my wife. So, of course, they went in the tent to consummate their marriage to make it okay, because that's how they get married, honey. And so when he woke up the next morning, honey, he opened them eyes and it was Leah. Now, both of her eyes probably was not looking at this man, but hey, it is what it is. And he was like, oh my gosh, he got tricked. So he had to work another 7 years for Rachel to marry. I think he ended up marrying Rachel back then, but he made an agreement with her father to, of course, work, for him for another 7 years to have Rachel. Now, at this point, Leah and Rachel, it became a competition. So Rachel was barren. Like, she didn't have kids until her older age. And in fact, she died giving birth to Benjamin, her youngest. Now, over here on the other end, Leah got all these children that now Joseph's brothers, which are Leah's sons, they're jealous of Joseph because Jacob favored him. He gave him the coat with the many colors, like all of this. Like, so I just want to give you my viewpoint on why I think that Jacob ended up favoring Benjamin, and Joseph is, yeah, okay, he had him in when, they were older, but still, I still think it was because of their mom. So I wanted to give you all that. So it became like, this war. So Joseph is having these dreams. He had two dreams that his brothers will bow down to him, and brothers like, no, get somebody else to do it. No, that's not going to happen. So of course they became jealous of him. They became envious of him. They seen how their father favored him. He had the coat with the many colors. So it was all of this. And they was like, I don't like you. I don't like you. Didn't like your mama. No, I'm just saying. So his brothers plotted to kill him. But instead, they threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery. Yep. They was like, you out of here. So they went back and told their father, they put some animal blood on the coat and stuff like that. It was like, your son, your favorite, is gone. And his father was devastated. He was tore up. And he was like, you know what, Benjamin, He can't go nowhere because I don't want the same thing to happen to him. Now, y'all, honey, y'all do what y'all want to. But this, no. Sometimes the people that are closest to you will betray you. I don't know if you're listening, has that ever happened to you before? But even in betrayal, it can push you into purpose. Let that sink in. Even in betrayal, it can push you into purpose. Joseph ends up in Egypt working for Potiphar's house. He gains favor through his integrity and diligence. So, even though Joseph got sold into slavery, God's favor was still upon his life, and he ended up soaring into whatever position he was in. Now, Potiphar's wife didn't have nothing else to do, honey. And she made advances toward Joseph. And Joseph was like, no, like, you're Potiphar's wife. I'm not going to sleep with you. And so, because she refused, she ended up lying on him. And now he is falsely imprisoned. I know if you're listening to this, somewhere in your life, somebody has lied on you. And it may have cost you a job. It may have cost you a position. It may have cost you a business deal. Somewhere somebody has lied on your name. Let's keep talking about this. Now, Joseph did the right thing, but he still what suffered. Sometimes we can do what's right and still suffer. It makes no sense. But I'm telling you, God, it's a process. God has a plan. But God was with Joseph even in prison. Now, in prison, Joseph interpreted a dream for Pharaoh's officials, because you got the cook that was in prison, he got thrown in prison, and I think it was the baker. It was two officials that was in prison with Joseph. So what happened is that both of them had a dream that they could not understand. And they began to tell it to Joseph, and Joseph interpreted their dreams and said, listen, you, Pharaoh, gonna chop you up. Like, you not gonna make it. And you will actually get back and you're gonna get promoted. And you will be fine in Pharaoh's office. Now he said, listen, when you go back, can you please tell Pharaoh about who interpreted your dream and that I'm down here? He was like, oh, yeah, sure. I think it was 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, when Pharaoh had a dream that he needed interpretation to. And then that's when, I think it was the baker, he remembered, oh, yeah, it's this guy that is in prison. He interpreted my dream. I'm sure he can do the same for you. 2 years later. 2 years later, y'all. So he eventually remembered and was called to interpret Pharaoh's dream, which led to his promotion to second in command in Egypt. Second. I think the Bible says that he was the governor. So he was that close to Pharaoh. Y'all, just take this in. Just take this in. It took 13 years of process, betrayal, slavery, prison, but Joseph's dreams finally came to pass. 13 years. 13 years. Originally, you were lied on. Your brothers got jealous, threw you in a pit. They were going to kill you, but one of them said, hold up, no, just put him in this pit. And then one of them ended up selling you to slavery. Listen to the story. This story has always encouraged me in dark times. It has always encouraged me when I was going through. Along with Romans 8:28, where the Bible says all things work together for the good of those that love God, to those that are called according to his purpose. So it took him 13 years from the pit, I know you've heard it, to the palace. Now he's ruling. So now let's bring this full circle. The famine hits Joseph's family, the dad, the brothers, family hits where they are. So they decided, listen, in order for us to survive, we need to go to Egypt and get some food. His brothers unknowingly come to Egypt to get help from Joseph. Joseph eventually reveals. Now you have to go and read the whole story because it is a good read. Joseph reveals who he was, and in fact, he chose to forgive them because what did the brothers do? Ended up bowing down. His dream was it was fulfilled. Now, should Joseph had told him no, he shouldn't. But of course, Joseph was young. He was just saying what he dreamed about. So his brothers did end up bowing down to him because they didn't know who he was. And after they went back and forth, they thought that their brother was going to kill them, like he was setting them up, but he wasn't. He forgave them. Like, look where I am. I'm not holding on to that. Even you did me wrong, but I'm not going to hold on to all of that because I never would have been from the pit to the palace if I would have. All of that from the pit to the palace, in between all of that. That's where Joseph let go of forgiveness, bitterness, the betrayal that happened to him, the suffering he had to go through, falsely in prison, sold into slavery, all of this stuff. It should have never happened to him. He didn't deserve that. But look what it did. Joseph was able to save his entire family from a famine. And not just that, but bring his father to the land that he was. And now you're able to have your own land. So let's take this in. I know this a lot. Just take this in. What if you that are listening to this podcast, the New Era podcast, what if what you are experiencing right now in your life is to set you up and your family up for a better life? What if? What if you are the one that has to do it? You are the called. You are the chosen. You are the one that God said, yep, that one. If you go back in the Bible, and when I think it was Solomon, no, it was Samuel, sorry. Samuel was looking for a king. So it was Jesse, I think David's father. He had all of these sons that were, of course, qualified to be a king. Look at the way they look. Muscular. They're tending to the sheep and doing all these things. But the oil wouldn't pour out on any of those young men. And he was asking, do you have another son somewhere? Do you have another? It was one that was in the back tending to the sheep. And the Bible describes David as like, little twerp, not muscular, small in stature, all this stuff. But that's the one that God anointed. So out of your family, the ones that you think that are smart, intelligent, you may have struggled through school, you may have dropped out of school, whatever the case may be, you may have been the black sheep of your family. But God said, I chose you. So what if you are the one out of all of the ones that are qualified? You know what Joseph did say to his brothers? He said, you meant it for my evil, but God meant it for my good. I'm going to give y'all some time to shout right there. Go ahead, cry, shout, thank him. Because everything that you went through, the person that did it, they meant it for your evil. The person that fired you, they meant it for your evil. The person that cheated on you, they meant it for your evil. The person that you was loyal to, that you did everything for, but they still treated you like dirt. They meant it for your evil. But God said, hold up. Hold up. I meant it for your good. See, that's real trust. Seeing God's hand even in the midst of hurt. That's real trust. Sometimes you are in a pit and can't see how it's leading to the palace. You know, I know they say like when a person dies, on their tombstone, there is a born 19, just say 1900, and there is a dash and died 2005. I know it was a long time jab, but I'm just saying. That's what came up in my head. But it's in between that dash that matters. You were born, but what was the purpose? Like, what did you do? What did you fulfill? Who did you bless? How was your life in that dash? And then you die. So it's leading to the palace. Trust doesn't mean it feels good at all. Trusting God, trusting the process, trusting and living by faith, it doesn't feel good. It means you believe God in the midst of all of it. You believe God is still working. You believe God is still moving. Now I want to ask you this. What pit are you in right now that may be leading to your purpose? You can drop it in the comments. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, Pandora, all the outlets, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or you're listening this on YouTube, YouTube Music, I want you to drop it in the comments if you're not afraid. What pit are you in right now that might be leading to your purpose? Instead of focusing on what's lacking, look at what's working. Like I said, if God was standing right here, what would you do? How would you operate? How would you act? Would you tell him all the things that he hasn't done so far or the things that you haven't accomplished so far? Or would you be grateful for what you have and where you are? So I want you to look at what's working, not what's lacking. I challenge you this. I want you to write down 5 things you're grateful for this week. If you are in a place where you're looking at, I don't have this, and I want you to write down 5 things that you're grateful for this week and make it a habit. Do it every week. 5 things. You can be grateful for your job. You can be grateful for income. You can be grateful for life. You can be grateful for family. You can be grateful for good health. It may not be perfect health, but you can be grateful for good health. You have ears. You don't need an oxygen machine. You can be grateful for all those things. You're able to travel. It may not be the places that you really want to go right now, but you're able to get in your car, right? You're able to do things that some people can't do. Some people don't have a vehicle, they have to take the bus. Some people don't have a place or a space they can call them their own. They stay with somebody. They never have privacy. God is closer than you think. And I always say, even in the dark, even in betrayal, in the waiting, in the silence, he's there. If Joseph could trust in a pit, just think about it. Just think about it. Now, the Bible does not say if Joseph felt discouraged at times. It doesn't say if he complained sometimes. Because even in the waiting process, y'all, you are human. You may get a little discouraged at times because it's the waiting process. You know without a shadow of a doubt God is going to do it. You just don't know when. You don't know when. Just say, for instance, you're waiting on someone to pick you up. You don't know when they're going to show up. You know that they are, but you just don't know when. If Joseph could trust in a pit, so can you. If God turned prison into promotion for Joseph, he can do the same for you. He has no respect of person. Go through your process. Go through the dash. Go through, work through all of that. I invite you to share this podcast with someone who needs encouragement. Share it. Share it on your platform. Share it on your platform with someone that needs encouragement. I want you, if you hadn't already, please make sure that you follow, subscribe, drop down in the comments, send me a DM. And you can, all of my descriptions, my social medias are in this podcast in the description below. So you can contact me on any platform and send me a DM. And I want to talk. Like, did this encourage you? Did you need this? And tell me what you're trusting God currently for now. This can be a private conversation. Or you can send me an email at Courtney with a K at thenew.era.com. And also, I want you to be encouraged to get the merch. Now, Divorce the Drama, Married the Mission is one of my latest teas out right now. And I love this shirt. It's so nice. Divorce the Drama, Married the Mission is one of my latest teas. You can get it on coedwear.com or you can go to thenew.era.com and purchase it there. Go to shop and you should see it there. Yes, www.thenew.era.com. You guys, this has been wonderful. This has been great. I enjoyed this podcast thoroughly because I wanted to encourage you and also encourage myself. You know, I'm walking through something right now that I am trusting God with. And I would love to share it with you guys. But once it's complete, I will share. I definitely will share. So once again, I thank you so much for rocking with me on this podcast. And make sure that I said again that you share it out. Make sure you follow, you like, you subscribe, you do all the things. And I will see you guys on the next podcast. I love you so much with the love of God. And be blessed and have a wonderful week. Bye.